Beezle, 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 bub. Drinking all the water from the dirty tub. Beezle, 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 bub. Eating all the food and pooping on the rug.
Kitchen Scene Underground.
Welcome to Kitchen Scene Underground. My name is Travis, and today we're going to be cooking Ropa Vieja. Ropa Vieja is Spanish for old clothes. It's a popular dish in the islands such as Cuba, Puerto Rico. It's basically a flank steak, brisket, or skirt steak, which is cooked in a tomato-based sauce. First time I had Ropa Vieja, I was in Miami with my friend Mike and Steven, and we were just hanging out at the beaches, wandering around. Stopped at a little restaurant on the beach, and we had some lunch. I had the typical rice and beans, but of course, Mike had to get something better. He got Ropa Vieja. He shared some, put it on my plate, and I fell in love immediately. When my wife and I moved to Cape Coral, Florida, we actually had the opportunity to eat this as much as we wanted. Our neighbors were Cuban, there was Cuban shops all around town, and now that we're living in Pennsylvania, I can't find this to save my life, so I decided to make it at home. We're going to make a Ropa Vieja today with very affordable ingredients, healthy ingredients, most of them all organic and locally grown. And we're going to put it in the crock pot for about 6 or 7 hours. When it's time for dinner, we'll be good to go. So let's get started. First thing we have to do before we actually make this all is we have to enjoy some scotch. So prost, my friends. Cheers. You're going to need a 10-ounce can of crushed tomatoes with chili in it. Chili like jalapenos, of course. You're going to need 3 tablespoons of ketchup, 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. I choose to use a little bit more than 1 tablespoon because I like how the acidity breaks down the meat. It gives it a wonderful flavor and it really makes it tender. You're also going to need 2 to 5 garlic cloves minced. I chose to use 6. I love garlic. My wife loves garlic. Unfortunately, my coworkers do not like how I smell after eating all the garlic, but it's so good for you. Please use as much garlic as you prefer. You need about 1½ teaspoons of cumin, 1 jalapeno with the seeds in it. A lot of places will cut the jalapenos up and take the seeds out. I like to leave the seeds in because it gives a good spicy flavor. The hotter the better. Of course, salt, pepper to taste, but don't forget the most important is onions and peppers. I like to cut these as thick as possible so when you bite into your meal you actually get the bite of the onion and the peppers. Okay, let's get started. Okay, we're ready to put all the food in the crock pot. We're going to cook this for approximately 6 hours. So if you got a lot of things to do, like take your kids to school, or you got to go to work, and you just want to come home to a nice meal, crock pot is actually pretty cool. I know that my generation, we thought the crock pot, that mom was throwing some casserole in there with tuna and noodles and potato chips on the top. I never actually liked that. Now that I'm an adult and I'm working 60 hours a week, I love the crock pot. You can throw anything in there and it comes out amazing if you know what you're doing. The first things first is you got to make sure your steak or your meat, your chicken, your fish, whatever it is that you're cooking has been marinated or at least flavored somehow before you put it in the crock pot. I marinated this skirt steak in pineapple juice and a can of beer. The can of beer gives the steak a phenomenal flavor, of course depending on what beer you use, but pineapple juice, just like the vinegar, adds an acidity that breaks down the meat and makes it very, very tender. Skirt steak is very inexpensive. You can get this at the local farmer's market, you can get it at your local shopping market for very cheap, but with that means it's not the best quality of meat, so anything you can do to break it down, like the vinegar or the pineapple juice or even the beer, will give it just a much more enjoyable flavor and a better experience altogether. What we're going to do is we're going to turn our crock pot on for 6 hours and just let it warm up. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the steak directly into the crock pot. Pull it right out of the juice. Again, this is beer and pineapple juice. It doesn't look very attractive, but that's going to happen. But I'll tell you what, the flavor is going to be amazing. We're just going to set it down there. Put this aside for cleanup later. Don't mind the dirty dishes. And we're going to go ahead and add all of our ingredients. We put the tomatoes in first. The ketchup. Go right to the garlic. Get that in there. Vinegar. Jalapenos with the seeds, don't forget. The onions, just toss them in. Get them all in there. The peppers. And of course the cumin. And of course you want to add a little bit of salt and pepper to taste. Don't use too much because it'll definitely be overwhelming. And of course, this isn't in most recipes, but I chose to use a little bit of red wine, a nice dry red wine. Pour that over the top. Give it a good stir, make sure that it's all blended in together. Doesn't look like much now, but give it some time, in a couple hours, this is going to be an amazing meal. Then we're going to shred it and enjoy it on top of some rice. But the final thing, last thing I forgot to mention, if you really want this to be a flavorful meal, is some lime juice. There you go. I'm going to let that sit for about 6 hours and we'll see you when it's ready.
I wanna know if you're okay. Things aren't exactly how I wanted it to be. I never planned on leaving, but as long as your heart beats, you'll be fine. And it makes me think this pain was worth it. Just promise me.
Well, it's been many hours, about probably 5 or 6 hours since we started the Ropa Vieja, and it's time to eat. So we're gonna get our crock pot. Put it right over here. That meat is really just falling apart. Usually, if it's a thicker steak, you want to shred it with 2 forks, get them together and just rip it up. Since we were using a flank steak today, or skirt steak, it fell apart on its own. So, let's open that up. Make sure you don't get burnt by the steam. My wife has prepared some rice for us tonight, which has some turmeric and some other spices in it to give it a really nice, beautiful flavor. This is white rice, but the turmeric turned it yellow. Turmeric is really good for circulation and other things. I mean, to make it simple, it's very, very healthy. It stinks, but it's healthy. Put that there. Get our Ropa Vieja. It's okay, it's a little bit wet. Some of the juice is right there on it. This portion will be for me, so I can eat a lot without a problem. Make a little portion here for the wife. Oh, that looks amazing. You can really see how the meat has just fallen apart. Again, I did not shred this. This steak fell apart on its own. Oh, the peppers and the onions just smell phenomenal. There you go. Well, I hope you enjoyed the show. If you're interested in more recipes, you can email us at kitchensceneunderground@gmail.com. Have a great night.
I wanna know if you're okay. Things aren't exactly how I wanted it.
Whee!